Well, hello and welcome. You're very welcome to round number 3 of EML round 3. It's been a long time, but we are back. My name is Graham. This is Division 2, or League 2, I should say. And joining me tonight, as always, it is Storm. How you getting on, Storm?
Yeah, I'm definitely doing good. And yeah, I think Azerbaijan, not a track everybody loves. And I think even Lewis Hamilton might even say that.
Didn't go too well for him, nor Max Verstappen for that matter, but alas.
No, I think it'll be an interesting one, especially if it does rain. Obviously, we don't know what the weather is going to be, but yeah, I think if it's rain, it's definitely going to be a very interesting and spicy race.
Yeah, well, it always is at Baku, isn't it? It always is a very interesting one. Plenty of overtaking opportunities, plenty of close barriers, tight turns, long straights. It's the perfect storm, no pun intended, isn't it?
Yeah, cheers for the pun there, Graham. I think some people might say, is Baku like Monaco? I wouldn't say as such, because obviously Baku is a little bit wider, but I was speaking to a few of the drivers earlier this week, obviously especially Ivor Bryn Mike, who's one of the commentators with TTML and EML. He reckons there may be a few DNFs through the castle section tonight, and we may get a few safety cars. So yeah, I think that part of the track could be a very crucial part to negotiate, as it is quite technical through that castle section.
Yeah, especially with the kind of the understeery nature of these cars this year, it can be. I think there's going to have to be some, maybe not a ton, of compromise between negotiating that infield part versus obviously what you're running on the straight. Obviously, given that I'd say a third easily of this lap is going to be spent at full throttle.
Yeah, and I think also the start-finish line, that long DRS straight, I hope that nobody does a Red Bull and goes into the back of their teammate, because that could cause quite a lot of friction, especially in an esports event as EML. So yeah, there's definitely, as you mentioned, a lot of overtaking going to be happening, especially down into turn 1. Obviously, lap 1, turn 1, we know that we are possibly expecting a virtual safety car or a safety car because of the type of nature of corner it is.
And teamwork is of paramount importance here, and with that in mind, we'll quickly go over the what happened last time and the standings heading into tonight. So it was a while ago, so let me jog your memory. It was Felix 1 for Neverlast Racing who took the victory in Spain last time out. Then you had BNLR Dan finishing for BNL Racing Esports in second place, and then Mr. Pop rounding out the podium for TRT Academy. And if we mosey on over to the standings, it looks well. I was surprised for the standings now, to be fair, because Esports Wales Tan on first there on 55 points. I say the full names because that's what is in front of me, so apologies if the abbreviations aren't to your liking. But Neverlast Racing then on 50 points in second place. TTG not too far behind them on 47 points in third. Then OWR Esports in fourth place on 43 points, tied with Norway Scuderia Racing as NSR, of course. BNL then in 6th place on 34 points, then QVR just behind them on 32, TRT also on 32 points, then a bit of a gap then to CPI on 10 points, and ECOS minus 20 points with some ground to make up. But I'd say other than 9th and 10th there being CPI and ECOS, it's very tightly poised from first really to 8th.
Yeah, and just to throw a spanner in the works for BNLR, only one of their drivers will be racing tonight, as the other one is unable to get into the lobby. So that's going to be interesting further up the grid. Just a mentioning on the team lineups tonight, I will give you a rundown on the teams. As also from TTG Racing Team, we have TTG CR7, the Formula 3 TTML Drivers Champion, so he's going to look to continue that momentum. Then they've also got xsway_97, and their reserve is TTG Waffles. From Neverlast Racing, which is NLR Esports, we have last race winner, which was Felix 1. Then we've got NLR Dylan, and their reserve for this evening for this race is MRL Russell 63. Then we have Norway Scuderia Racing, which is NSR. Now, I do apologise if I say names wrong. I do apologise. I'm really going to botch this one up. It's NSR Maxi Samin. Then they have, for driver number 2, is NSR MCFC 2020. And reserve is NSR Kai 19. For Esports Wales TAN, the division leaders is ESW Colin R. Mason, and then we have ESW Ivor Bryn Mike, and their reserve is Welsh Maldonado. Then for Old Walker Racers, which is OWR, we have OWR Bear Remy, then we have OWR Atlantis Copo. They don't have a reserve for this race, and then we have TRT Academy, which is Mr. Pop. And then we have Reggie Bowley. Their reserve is TRTG Chalkers. Then we have Queen Vic. I'm just going to have to call them QVR. They have B_Morgan. And the second driver is Alt Maverick with a reserve as QVR Chill. And then we have BNLR, which is BNLR Kobe and BNLR LeCour. I do apologise if I've said that wrong. Then we have the CPI Academy, which is Hecht _21 with CPI Marcel, and the reserve is CPI Noah J. Then we have Ecos, which is obviously Contest of Speed. We have Ecos Sozzy, and we have Ecos Raggy 05 with reserve of Ecos Mike. And that is all the team lineups for Baku.
Quite a handful.
Yeah.
Names aside, what team lineup has kind of got you thinking perhaps they could put on a strong showing here tonight?
Well, obviously no bias to NSR, because obviously I am a driver from NSR. Felix 1 is here tonight. Now, we know he won in Spain. We've also got the Formula 3 TTML race, Drivers' Champion here, CR7, so that's going to be a nice battle to see. It'll be interesting to see where Esports TAN, they are the division leaders. It'll be interesting to see where they go. I think you can't put anybody out as outright, they're going to dominate this race, because it's such an interesting track that one mistake and your race is flipped the other side. So I think there's maybe 3-4 teams that's popping out to me. Maybe TRT, Esports Wales, maybe QVR.
Yeah, I have to say the NLR Sports esports team of Felix and led by Felix rather, is a strong one. I have to say that TTG one is very strong. You've got two very strong drivers in TTG CR7, who is, like I said, is the Division 3 champion, but when I say champ, like, he was a different league in terms of pace. Now, consistency was a little bit of an issue and has been an issue in other leagues that I've raced with him in, but he is extremely quick. And Sway 97, Division 2 or F2 driver, excuse me, in TTML as well, very quick. I don't know if he's running. I imagine he's turned ABS. I believe ABS is allowed in League 2, but we are getting underway. So I'd have to say TTG and NLR have some strong lineups. I have to say I did like QVR's lineup as well, with Morgan and Maverick there as well. So look, I think it's definitely all to play for as we finally get into qualifying at 6 minutes past 7.
Yeah, and it's also an interesting one because NLR were here, obviously, in Spain. And if my memory serves me right, that is just over a month ago now, didn't one of the NLR drivers spin in Spain? I believe it wasn't Felix, it was his teammate, I believe, which might have been Pachuca. I believe it might have been.
I remember there was definitely some team dynamics that were interesting, involving NLR at the time. Possibly maybe utilising a situation, maybe not to the best of their ability to get the team result. But look, it is that finally poised that maybe a mistake like that might matter, and maybe it might not. But it does look like it's a dry session at least to get going. Of course, no indication what that might be for the race. But we are finally underway for qualifying. 17 contestants, so it'd be nice to finally get into the swing of things. And expecting some low, in terms of lap times, I hope we could see some low 38s. Might see some interesting plays with the strategy. There's a lot of unknowns heading into this one now.
Yeah, and I believe a few of the drivers are having a few connection issues, as NLR Dylan from Neverlast Racing is unfortunately not in the session. It's lagged him out. The same with Raggy. We had this issue in Spain, so I just wonder if that will get fixed. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting qualifying session. Slipstream will be an interesting one, I think, as well for these cars, because they're not the normal F1 cars. They are the multiplayer cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And this track is much more viable for slipstreaming than the likes of Spain. Now, obviously, there's two decent straights in Spain, but nothing compared to this. So I would expect, possibly, if there is an established hierarchy where one driver might be considered considerably faster than the other, that we might see a little bit more slipstreaming in qualifying in this one.
Yeah, and to add more to the mix as well, and the drama, due to the EML rules, if a driver can't make the session, they aren't allowed to participate at all, because it can cause glitches. And Dylan lagged out of the session before we started qualifying, so he may not be able to race. So that's going to hamper any possible race win for NLR with Felix 1.
Yeah, it's of course having two basic maths, 2 cars is better than 1 to score points. But we're going to get underway. Sway is going to be our first driver on a lap. We'll take you through it. Extremely high speed, of course, heading down towards the first of the 90-degree corners. A few of them to be had on this track. He reaches in excess of 200 miles an hour. Of course, they're always down to 65% of ERS heading down to turn 1. That's how long you are on the throttle here. Outside curb at turn 1, you can go past it. You can validate your lap that way. Take it nice and tight into turn 2. That's a very clean first 2 corners. You've got so much time to think about your entry points. It can almost mislead you. And then turn 3, you're going to see plenty of overtaking down into here tonight. Nice and clean for Sway as he approaches another 90-degree. A good chance to maybe get a reply if you've been overtaken. Keep it, switch back when you have turn 3 heading into turn 4. And then the twisty turvy stuff, the stuff where you'd be likely following other cars. There are limited opportunities heading down towards turn 7 if you are brave enough with your ERS, and especially brave enough to take the car on the inside there. That's one of the few corners you can cut and in validation get penalties, which we shouldn't be seeing too many of. Nice and tight through the castle section. Slow in, fast out. I have to say, we're remains to be seen how quick this lap is, but it does look clean. And that will be a good indication for Sway. And this is arguably the most difficult braking point of the whole track. Downhill, if you take that curb on the left hand side, you can easily run over it, and that can clout you into the barrier. But it is a very clean lap from Sway. We'll see what the benchmark is, and you've done the hard part now. You just have to successfully negotiate the slingshot section, which during the race on worn tyres is easier said than done, that's for sure. And we'll see what lap time it yields as he finishes the lap. Very clean lap for Sway here.
Yeah, as he is now going to come down to the end of his lap and cross the finish line. It is a 1:38.6 on the soft compound tyre. A few drivers are on the medium compound tyre. So I'm going to throw this one over to you, Graham. Qualifying lap for Baku, would you be more wanting to go on the soft compound tyre, or would you want to set your fastest lap on the medium compound tyre?
That's Mr. Popco's quickest there, 38.4. There's a crash, sorry. I'll answer your question in a sec there. CPI Marcel just cutting out of the outskirts of the castle section there, clouting the left-hand side of the wall there. To be honest, it could be just pure carnage here. And there's another car off in the distance there.
Yeah, that's Marcel. He's just crashed right into the wall. He went straight on, didn't stop, nothing. So that's both CPIs out.
Yeah, so he's starting from the back with Noah J. I think Noah J actually did. I was trying to find him on the map. It was turn 8, I believe. He actually crashed into. But to answer your question, I just think with the chaos that this track is, I just think track position might be the thing to aim for. And because I've had situations myself in the past here, racing here myself in other leagues and the such, where if you could just find yourself ahead of that chaos, you'd be amazed at what can actually, how much time you can actually gain from just being ahead of the nonsense, so to speak. So if you start on mediums, you're likely to end up a little bit further down the grid and just a bit more susceptible to find yourself in the midst, the chaos. And I just think, given that we know how chaotic this track can be, I just think that it's best to avoid it if possible.
Yeah, so just to bring up to speed on the confirmation, NLR will only race with Felix 1 this evening due to EML rules. NLR Dylan cannot participate now in the session as he lagged out just before we went into qualifying, so he cannot join the session this evening. So it's going to be an interesting one because he won't have no slip. Well, Felix 1 won't have any slipstream from his teammate, and it's going to have to be a one-man show for NLR.
I'll tell you who did have slipstream though, and that was CR7, who had a beautiful tow from Sway there. The two TTG cars playing an absolutely beautiful team game, and that helped CR7 get to provisional pole position with a 38.3. So good teamwork being shown there, an example of what you can gain heading down this main straight. In fact, I'm actually curious as Ecos Aussie then goes into P3, the second lap on those soft compound tyres, 38.6. Actually just going to see the difference in sector 3 time between Mr. Pop and CR7, 24.2 and 24.5 for Mr. Pop. So you can see the time that one would gain just benefit on slipstream. Now Mr. Pop had a good sector 1, which has helped his time a lot there. CR7 34.6, plenty to improve upon, but 3/10 quicker through sector 3, which is basically that straight. Shows you the time that is in hand if you have a complicit teammate to help you string you along.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting one with Baku because it's very key on the ERS deployment that you use in certain places, because you don't really want to be using it in corners because you're not going to really get it an effective. You want it down that long straight as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I was having a quick look at the YouTube comments there. Maxi Syme was taking some amusement in the pronunciation of his name.
I do apologise if I do pronounce somebody's name wrong. Don't
Likewise.
worry. Yeah, don't worry. I go to Specsavers for anyone asking.
I already went.
Yeah, and it's quite a flip of the different tracks between Spain and Baku, because in Spain, Felix, I think he may have got pole. I'm not quite sure. It's been so long ago now, but he's currently in P7, and everybody in front of him, he's just probably thinking, well, I can't do any better because I have no teammate because he's not here.
It remains to be seen kind of how the other teams go about in terms of, how if they deploy, some people aren't willing to play the team game. So we saw TTG do it. I'm just trying to see. We'll see if I'm not sure if TRT may have done it themselves or if they think they should think about doing it. But they got 2 cars inside the top 5 there. So, possibilities are there.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how ESW play this, because obviously them being the division leaders. So as Colin R. Mason is into the pits, the drivers have been warned about the pit entry. It was brought up, I believe, earlier today. So they're going to have to be careful on the pit entry and the pit exit. Sector 2 and Sector 3 are showing yellow flags, and I believe that's a TRT. No, that's a TTG driver.
I'm just slow. Just to get their exit.
Yeah.
It was odd because you mentioned Colin Mason coming into the pits there. He was on an outlap, so I suspect maybe he may have picked up some damage on his way out, because he just came out and just went straight back in. So, but plenty of time to get another run in. Speaking of TRT, they do not seem to be towing each other along, because Mr. Pop is on a flying lap, very much solitary, and 34.4. Another strong Sector 1. He's been very strong in Sector 1. But he's going to be tight. He's going to be hard pressed to match CR7's time through Sector 3. So it's going to have to be, the hard work's going to have to be done in these first 2 sectors.
it's an interesting one because that final corner in Baku, if you clip that wall, you've not just lost your wing, you've also lost potential time on a lap, and you've also potentially, ruined tyres. So I think some of them may be taking a little bit cautious because some of the lap times are slower than expected, because if you look at outside the top 10, they're not even close to the 138s or 139s. So they're maybe just backing off. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt there. It's a track that I think instills a bit of fear. That's a 38.2 for Mr. Pop, so plenty of time to be found out there. And that would be the upside for CR7, who has not managed to find himself time. I think his teammate, though, is getting the slipstream this time, though, in Sway. So they've gone back and forth, the two TTG cars. But what I was going to say was that it's a track that instills fear. You just want to get a lap on the board, a representative lap on the board. And I think that's why you're seeing some of those initially slower times to begin with. Let's see what this slipstreaming effect has done. It's brought Sway up to P3 at 38.4, so that's second and third for TTG as it currently stands.
I do understand why I think Sway has done that. Obviously, he probably felt that he was quicker on his lap, but it does question when they did come through that final corner, slipstreaming through that, or starting the slipstream there, must be very difficult for teams, because you've kind of got to negotiate that final corner with each other, and if the car in front of you brakes too early, the car behind is not going to be able to react as quick enough. It seems to be MCFC is still in the pits with 5 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. Raggy is not in the session, I think, so he will be an AI ghost car. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting one, and it'll be a battle, I think, between TRT and TTG. The battle of the T's, you might as well call it.
Seems to be shaping up that way. But I think to kind of discuss your thought with slipstream, I think where I'm just watching Iverbin right now, and really here is where you need to be onto the back of your teammates. So if you're the car giving the tow, then by the time they straighten out, so to speak, they're beginning to catch in. I think Sway may have caught CR7 a little bit too early on that straight to really maximise that tow. It sounds very simple to... In theory, it sounds very easy to execute, but in reality, it's not as simple as you might think, and that's a bit more like it from CR7 as a 38.1, and his teammate is well down this straight here, so I'm not sure. I'd be hard pressed to think Sway gave any sort of slipstream to CR7 there, so that is just pure pace, and that's the kind of pace we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and just a quick mention, Reggie Bowley has gone up to P3, so kind of it's a TTG sandwich, because you've got CR7 in for the provisional pole at the moment with 4 minutes roughly on the clock, and then you've got Mr. Pop and his teammate from TRT Academy in second and third. Then it's Sway in P4, then the Ecos driver of Ecos Sozzy in P5. Then we've got B Morgan, or B_Morgan should I say, in 6th. Then we've got last race event winner, which is Felix One. His teammate couldn't make it into the lobby. Then we've got Alt Maverick in P8. Then we've got ESW Colin R. Mason in P9. Rounding off the top 10 at the moment, that could all change, is OWR Bear Remy. Then outside the top 10 is ESW Ivor Bryn Mike, OWR Atlantis Copo. Then in P13, the name I really apologise when I say it wrong, is NSR Maxi say I can't even pronounce it. And then we've got Ecos Raggy, who is not in the session, and NSR MCFC in P15. Then we've got the two CPI drivers, which is CPI Marcel and CPI Noah Joe. Yeah, it's quite an interesting one, because the QVR drivers, they're not out at the moment. And I thought, being in the position they are, you would want to be out when the track is hardly empty to get a better slipstream. Because if you get the perfect slipstream, I think they could be battling up there with the top 4, maybe 5.
Yeah, potentially. They're, I think, 6th and 8th at the moment. Any good slipstream is worth about 3-4 tenths, and 3-4 tenths for them you know, maybe not Maverick, but Morgan would definitely benefit hugely from
Yeah.
that little extra bit of time. We do have some cars begin to creep back on track for their final runs. 2.5 minutes to go. I believe Sway is going to be our first one. I'd imagine they might time this where I'm not sure when CR7 might come out, if they are going to do slipstream for this last run. There's a science to timing this between getting your own lap in and make sure your teammate gets a lap in, and obviously slipstreaming in between the laps you are not on. So it's a bit of a minefield. But I'd say looking on the track at the moment, I'm hard pressed to see whether any are shaping up to do so now. CR7 is coming out of the pits now, so maybe by the time maybe Sway catches up to him, maybe he might be on that part of the straight, but there's a lot of cars in between. So look, there is a method to it, and we'll see. I guess we'll only see with time how it all develops, if anyone will be benefiting from slipstream in these final runs.
Yeah, as the drivers are now going to come into that final run area, it's going to be quite congested on the track, and I think it's going to be that kind of situation where you either have got it to perfection or you've absolutely not hit your mark. And I think this will be where we see if Sway should I say, has hit the nail on the head and got it to perfection, or he has absolutely missed his target.
You'd have to say, though, looking at the track as it is now, you'd have to say they are looking pretty good to nail this. Felix here is on a flying lap. He's had a lot of traffic on this lap, a lot of cars to negotiate. Would not have helped in his preparation. So let's see then, before we switch back to Sway, how Felix gets on. He was improving through 2 sectors. And puts himself up to 7th place. So that's all he's going to be able to manage. I don't think he's going to have enough ERS for another run. So that's going to be it. That's P7 maximum for Felix. That'll be a little bit disappointing given how he fared last time out. Sway, I believe, will be the next one to cross the line. Oh, almost heads into the barrier there at turn 15. His teammate lies just in front, and there he is. And I think they may have got the timing on this a little off. He's catching on far too quick and through the slingshot section, and that is an ineffective tow. Really, where Sway is now, you'd want to be picking up the slipstream. They have mistimed that one poorly, as Sway is going to abandon this run and box. So maybe he wasn't up as it was. Maybe that's why it didn't quite work out. But you have to say that's not ideal in terms of what they were trying to achieve.
Yeah, really unlucky there for TTG. I think that could have got Sway up to maybe a P3, maybe a P2, and we could have seen a front row lockout from TRT. But yeah, that's an unlucky situation there for Sway. We nearly had a photo finish, you might as well say 2 qualifying, as the flag has now gone out, as qualifying has finished on our screen, as Mr. Pop sets the fastest lap and will take pole position at the moment with a 138.0. So yeah, CR7 has got it all to play for now.
Yeah, big lap there for TRT. Next up is Bear Remy for OWR. What can he do? He crosses the line and stays in 11th place. I believe Rage Bolly coming across the line. He stays in 3rd place. So 1st and 3rd for TRT at the moment. See if you can pick up another one. Here is Saucy for Ecos. He crosses the line. He goes up into 3rd place. Displaces Rage Bolly and Sway then for those honours. Where's Maxi Syme? He comes into the pits. He's not improving. Morgan.
I have to interrupt you, as CR7 is coming to the end of his lap, and on my game it is showing purple sectors through all 3 of the sectors. So he's going to get no tow or no slipstream, but he's going to cross the line, and he stays P2.
Just that's about 1500ths off. So not enough to get pole position, but Mr. Pop for TRT is going to start on pole position ahead of CR7 then. Morgan got himself up to 4th in the end. So you'd have to say that botched slipstream pretty costly then for Sway, who finishes 6th, but it is Mr. Pop for TRT who starts from pole position ahead of CR7. Then Ecos, good starting position for them. Saucy in 3rd, with Morgan then for QVR in 4th, Rage Bolly then 5th, Sway in 6th, Felix Probably did himself well to stay in 7th after setting his lap first. No one else really improved ahead of him, or behind him rather. So he starts 7th. That could have been worse. Maverick then starts 8th. Maxi Syme 9th, and Atlas Scopo then starts in 10th. Outside the top 10, free choice of tyres for Colin Mason, Bear Remy, Ivor Mike, Rag then in 14th. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. MCFC 15th. And then the 2 CPI cars in Marcel and Noah J starting 16th and 17th. One of 4 cars not to set a time. This track it does bite back.
Yeah, it does, rightly so. And I think we are going to be in for a storm of a race, no pun intended there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the race weather is going to be. And yeah, I think CR7 situation, he's not going to have his teammate up there at the front. So it's really all kind of down to TRT making the best start on the race start of what they can do, and that is looking like an overcast. So maybe some rain expecting in a few laps.
Possibly. Always a decent indication of potentially where the weather might go is what tyres the guys outside the top 10 elect to start on. If you see everyone start on softs, that's a fairly decent indication of what is to come. But I imagine we'll see a few if you see hards, then that could be also interesting as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm really not sure how it will play out, but yeah, weather could very easily end up being a factor. You'd have to say also as a factor as well, pole position, given how close to turn 1 pole starts. For as long as a straight this is, you don't start too far back. So we'd have to take a pretty good start for CR7 to make the jump onto at least onto the front there. Let's see then for the tyres. A split mostly. Most people choosing mediums, being Colin, Ivor Mike, MCFC, Marcel and Noah J then on mediums, and then you just have Bear Remy and Ecos Rag on softs outside the top 10.
Yeah, as the drivers are now going to complete the formation lap, so it is going to be a short run down into turn 1. I believe it's one of the shorter runs down into turn 1 in the F1 2021 should I say calendar. It's going to be Mr. Pop who will take the race start from pole position. Then we have TTG, apologies, CR7 in second place. So that's going to be an interesting battle. It's going to be TRT versus TTG. So as I said, it is going to be the battle of the T's. It's going to be the yellow car versus the blue car.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely this hierarchy heading into this one. There's no doubt about it. It's going to come down to TRT versus TTG for, at least at the moment, you'd have to say for top spoils. QVR have 2 cars inside the top 10, not to be discounted, of course. But obviously the Felix riding solo tonight, and Ecos Saucy himself in the top 10. Starting from P3, could be a man in good position. Should shenanigans kick off in front, you're going to see plenty of action. Not so much heading down to turn 1, but the first big slipstream opportunity heading down towards turn 3. And it's going to be helter skelter. There may be things we miss, and apologies for that. But such is the nature of Baku that these things can happen. But hopefully, at least we'll get a nice clean lap 1. But we shall see.
Yeah, as the drivers are now coming to the end of the formation lap, it's going to be an interesting one for ESW, as they are the division leaders. They will have to score some pretty big points and be consistent this evening, as the drivers are now coming right to the start-finish line, where they will slot into their grid slots. I will hand you over to my commentator colleague, which is Graham, for the race start in EML League 2 for round 3 in Azerbaijan.
Should be an entertaining one. Let's hope they all get through turn 1 safely. We'll hop on board for Ecos Saucy, see what his launch is off the line in comparison to the top 2. I always like going on board for a brief moment with one of the drivers near the front before we dip into a wider shot. But a nice short run for Mr. Pop heading into turn 1 on the racing line, unlike the pole position at Kota, for example. Here we go then. getting ready for 26 laps. Here we go, 5 red lights. And away we go. It's a good start for Ecos, Saucy and Mr. Pop. CR7 under pressure, heading to turn 1. Oh, one of the other TRT cars go very, very deep on the brakes, and that was CR7 and a half spin. There may have been contact there, but Mr. Pop leads them away ahead of Ecos, Saucy and Rage Bolly as they head through turns 1 and 2. Side-by-side action where it is CR7. He files into a P5, all civilized, heading down towards turn 3. No one going for any particular dives. See further back. Oh, there's some side-by-side action here. That is Bear Remy and Ivorbrin Mike. And CPI Marcel on the outside there. He gets through into P14.
Yeah, crazy start on that race start there. I think there was a little bit of understeer from CR7, who drops down to P5. And it looks to be a battle here for the ESW, Esports Wales TAN drivers. Noah J, should I say, is battling here with the driver of ESW, Colin R. Mason, as they come through the castle section. As Noah J has clipped the castle section barrier. I don't know if he's got any damage. It looks to be okay, but he may have some floor damage. A new feature in the F1 game, as they will now come to the final few corners of lap 1.
Felix gets by CR7 for P5, maybe the sloppy exit for CR7 heading out of the castle section. The thing looks okay, but Felix, very nice move around the outside there, looked like, but CR7 hoping to make a replay. Oh, and Bolly's round. He's lost it coming through the slingshot section. So he looks like he's still in the race, but that is one of the TRT cars out of contention then right away on lap 1 as his teammate Mr. Pop sets a fast lap to the race with a 1.5 second lead.
Yeah, and look at CR7 right on the back of Felix 1. This is going to play so massively into the hands of TTG because they're right next to each other. They're P5 and P6 at the moment. They both can try and attack Felix 1, but they are going to have to be cautious because the nature of the track, one slip, and we've already seen one driver in the wall, it could all go wrong.
Rage Bolly into the pits then to put on the hard compound tyres, trying to salvage something from this race. Felix just behind Morgan then in third, who is out of DRS, 1.8 seconds to Saucy, who is in turn basically the same gap, 1.8, 1.9 to Mr. Pop. So when DRS is enabled on lap 3, you'd have to say Morgan is probably the driver under a little bit of pressure, and the TTG drivers probably should just sit back and see how things develop from that point of view. Maybe if something kicks off, they could be beneficiaries. They have 2 cars now inside the top 6. All the other teams just have 1 runner in the top 6 there. So I have to say, looking good for TTG in terms of the long game, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah, definitely 24 laps long to go. It's an interesting one, I think, with the TTG situation. They have both drivers in front of each other, so there's definitely going to be some radio communication in their party chat, I'm guessing, as they will want to get some move done. Oh, as Felix 1 has just completely gone straight past Morgan. I don't know what for. Yeah, so that's an interesting one.
He's coming back though. Morgan is coming back. Must have had a bit of a tank flapper coming out of the slingshot section and has to file him behind, but CR7 right there too. Now DRS will be enabled this lap. Now they're losing a lot of time to the top 3. Felix 1 does move up into 3rd place. It's been a good start, you have to say, from him, but now he's going to be vulnerable. The first car, and he's going to be eaten alive in a straight line. There goes one car, and CR7 a little bit too far back to make a move, but they'll be going side by side. Will there be contact? Oh, there's a little bit of contact. Oh, he's clouted the barrier, and CR7 on the outside, he'll get squeezed as well. And Felix, and they both go into the barrier, and Sway's going to be the beneficiary there. So contact between CR7, Felix and Morgan initially there. That was tough to read.
Yeah, definitely an interesting battle there. They went 3 wide into 1 corner. 3 does not go into 1, and yeah, that's an unfortunate into the wall for. Sector 2 yellow flags. Yeah,
CPI Noah is gone. More virtual safety car is deployed as Morgan, everything kicking off at once. Morgan's lost a place to Sway coming out of the castle section, so that rear end must be very unstable, but allows us to catch our breath a bit here. Absolute mad scenes. So that all kicked off from Morgan going for the move on Felix, and I have to say Morgan perhaps was understeer, but Felix got very much pent up to the right-hand side barrier, and that allowed CR7 to sweep to the left, where it did become 3 wide. And I just think there's nowhere to go for Felix. I think it was the car in the middle with the TTG car on the left, Morgan on the right, and that allowed, or sorry, the yeah, it would have been Morgan, and that allowed Morgan to carry on, and then eventually Sway, and then Sway eventually got by Morgan then. So yeah, is interesting. Sway from third place is pitching under the VSC, as are a few cars. The top 2 have gone on, and Sway's got a 5-second penalty for speeding into the pit lane. That is less than ideal, but looks like VSC is has now been recalled, and medium compound tyres for Sway. That may be indicating a 2-stop.
Yeah, and just a quick brief mention, Morgan clipped his wing as he went into the pits. He literally just clipped, I think it was the left side of his wing, so he's going to have obviously a new wing now, and that demotes P3.
Morgan down to P14, so a bit of a topsy-turvy grid. Of course, the other alternative is that possibly they could be putting on tyres to get to any potential rain. Could be another possible vector there, as Sway gets by Ecos Rag, who of course is not in his car, so I guess to be expected. So lots of different compounded tyres on the cars. Yeah, Colin Mason here on hard compound tyres. No one's using the softs coming into the pits. It's interesting enough. So yeah, top 2 decide not to pit. Maverick also decided not to pit as well. A couple of other guys on mediums, as you might expect, but yes, Sway then pulling the trigger from P3 to box under the VSC. We'll see how that decision pans out later on, but yeah, topsy-turvy stuff. I think the steward's going to have something to say about the turn 3 and 4 contact between Felix, CR7 and Morgan.
Yeah, that one will definitely go to the stewards, as that was a real 3 wide moment that I don't think a lot of drivers would want to be in, especially in that part of the track. Yeah, so I think it's going to be an interesting one, because Sway has got a 5-second penalty for the pit lane entry, because he was going a little bit too fast, as he was eager to get into that pit entry. I believe it's also Baku's one of the shortest pit lanes as well, so not a lot of time lost in the pits. It looks like ESW Colin Mason is dropping a position here as well to OWR Bear Remy. It looks to be that ESW may need to just kind of press the reset button and get themselves back up the order, as they are the division leaders and they do need to get maximum points as possible.
Hard compound tyre is probably not helping in Colin's charge, and he's under pressure now from Morgan as well, who wants to get this moved on as soon as possible. If you can get a good run coming out of turn 6, goes for a switchback for turn 7, all just pent up in the dirty air behind. You can just see the understeer, and having a look, keeping his ERS, deciding not to go for it, but he will lose a little bit of time.
Yeah, and it's not, I think it may help Colin in the DRS, but he has got an AI car right in front of him, so that's going to help him when they come to the straight, but he may want to get this move done very quickly. He has got past the AI car, so has Morgan as well. So yes, as Sozzy is into the pits.
Second place, Maverick into the pits as well. He's about to be passed by Marcel, who just sets a fast lap of the race. So some of the soft compound drivers in for the box. Medium compound tyres going on. Where is Morgan? There he is. Back on board. Sway now, fast lap of the race, 41.9. So Mr. Pop, I wonder if he may regret a fast lap flying in. Simple move for Morgan in the end. I wonder if Mr. Pop may regret A, not boxing into the VSC, and B, maybe not boxing lap number 5. As it stands, he's one of, he's the only car still in this actual session that is on the soft compound tyres, and be interested to see where he comes out in the comparison to the likes of Sway, who is actually ahead of Ecos Saucy there. So you see what the pitching under the VSC has done in terms of lifting some drivers into some decent track position.
Yeah, definitely some very nice track positions for a few, as there seems to be a battle at the back of the pack. which is Reggie Bowley, and CPI Noah J. He is having a battle there with the TRT driver, who did have a collision with the wall. He did meet the wall, should I say, and he is going to close up that gap on the hard compound tyre. One of the two drivers on the hard compound tyre, and I just wonder if there may be some different alternative strategies coming into play with using the hard compound tyre, because of maybe a potential safety car, maybe another VSC, if the cars are in the right place at the right time to make a second stop when the VSC does come out.
Yeah, a lot of possibilities at play. Let's go on board Felix, who is just within DRS here of Ecos Saucy, and Mr. Pop stays out for another lap. MCFC is coming into the pits. 5 laps on mediums. I would hazard to guess possibly there's maybe damage there, but fastest lap of the race for Felix, 41.1. He's got good pace and just needs to try and negotiate Ecos Saucy. This, I think, is going to be for a net P3, at least how it is possibly at the moment, depending where Mr. Pop comes out. Of course, with Sway then at the moment with track position, but a 5-second penalty to boot. CR7 close to the back of Maxi Simon, Morgan close to the back of Bear Remy. Just a few cars that just aren't quite able to make overtakes, but are knocking on that door.
Yeah, and just riding on board with Felix one, he had DRS on, I believe it was Sozzy, but just couldn't. I think the dirty air is playing a factor here. He just couldn't get close enough. I believe it's like the same situation with Hamilton in like Monaco. He was fast, but behind another car, he just couldn't close that gap. He just had so much dirty air, and I think we're starting to see it with Felix one here. He can get close in the corners, but as soon as it hits the straights, that dirty air becomes a major factor, and he just can't get close.
Mr. Pop is in from the lead, taking his soft 7 laps. It'll be fascinating to see. We'll stay on board here with Felix. I know Morgan should be able to move on Bear Remy, but we'll stay with this because I imagine Mr. Pop may come out pretty close here, and Felix may get himself pretty close as well. Now, Ecos also has Saucy also has DRS on Sway. Where is Mr. Pop? There he is. Actually, he's come out in a lot better shape than I thought he would. He is clear of that battle. So track position then, as we said, we were talking about earlier, very much playing a key factor there. And Mr. Pop, despite not pitting under the VSC, despite going a lap or so longer than his competitors on the softs, has emerged 3 seconds ahead of Sway, and he's looking very good for this race.
Yeah, he is, and I think he may have played it to perfection there, and he is going to be on fresher mediums. Obviously, everybody on around about 3 lap mediums, or the top 2 on 7 lap mediums. It's going to be quite interesting when them worn medium runners do decide to pit, as they can go longer than the soft compound tyre. The tyres in effect tonight at the moment is Pirelli's dry compound tyres, which is the C2, the C3 and the C4. We have seen all 3 tyres being used this evening, which is the soft, the medium and the hard. The soft being the fastest tyre with the maximum grip. Then we've got the medium compound tyre, which is just a little bit off of the soft compound tyre. Then the hards, the slowest of the 3 compound tyres, but gives you the longevity for the race, and will give you the maximum amount of laps that you can do over a 50% race distance.
Felix one was getting very competitive there with Saucy in the middle sector, and you have to say Saucy a little bit too far back to make any real impression on Sway, even with DRS, and that's because he's run out of ERS essentially. He's got absolutely 0%. To be honest, Sway, Saucy and Felix are all quite low on deployment, so that is not helping anyone, only Sway rather, in terms of actually getting ahead of this train. Felix is very, very close to Saucy side by side through sector 2, so maybe he found possibly a weak point. Who knows? They are separated by less than a second, these 3 cars, which is effective net P2, 3 and 4.
Yeah, as NSR MCFC is back into the pits only 1 lap after he pitted for the hard, so he's having a bit of a tough time in Azerbaijan for the street circuit in Baku. As you mentioned, the ERS deployment is a little bit low. I wonder if they're trying to save it for that start-finish straight, because it is quite key there and quite effective. So it's definitely going to be an interesting battle with these three here of Sway, Sozzy and Felix 1, as we are on lap 9 of 26.
Mr. Pop looking to negotiate either Bryn Mike, who is yet to make a pit stop in this race. He's lost a fair amount of time here in Sector 2, but waiting patiently for a presentable overtaking opportunity, which he will now happily take, as well. Struggling here, but DRS will help him to complete this one, and he moves up into effective P2, just CPI Marcel, who started at the back, of course, who is in P1 on a set of the medium compound tyres, an old set of medium compound tyres, and still no change here between Sway as a car in the wall. It must be an MCFC, is it? Yeah, he just got himself going again. No real changes at the moment between Sway, Saucy and Felix, although Saucy's a little bit closer to Sway this time around, actually pulling out of the slipstream. Interesting choice there.
Yeah, and that's wing damage for the NSR driver. So he's going to be back into the pits, and that will be his third pit stop. Oh, as he has no wing now. So he's really going to struggle coming through the corners here. And he's going to have to be careful because he may DNF the car. He's negotiated the sweeping left and right of the final corner, and he is going to box, I suspect, for another set of mediums. They may be used mediums as well. As he clips the wall again, as he is now in the pits, and gets the second penalty of the day of a 5-second penalty. Yeah,
adds insult to injury. And
he's gone for stops. Apologies to interrupt you there. MCFC is going to gamble on the soft compound tyre. They won't last 16 laps. Not a chance.
No, certainly not. This battle continues to rage on. It is between Sway, Saucy and Felix, and I tell you what, they won't be too long before CR7 might join them. Their only solace is that they are able to use to DRS each other essentially on these straights, which is obviously worth a lot of time. But if they keep each other pent up, and Mr. Pop's the fastest lap, 141.1, they keep themselves pent up like this, and they're going to have a fourth car to contend with here in their squabble.
Yeah, and yeah, just going obviously on what you're saying there with the CR7 situation, this actually helps out Sway, because Sway will kind of not negotiate, but kind of effectively, see where he can really use his pace and advantage with this group of cars, because he is going to be effectively the kind of leader of this DRS train. And then you've got CR7, massive understeer there from Sway in that corner there, and then you've got, as I was saying, CR7 is just going to be able to react to anything of the drivers that's in between P4 and P7, so he can pounce on any mistake that's made if they make a mistake in certain parts of the track, like the castle section, as they are going through now. And I believe it is a four-way car fight. Sector 2, yellow flags.
Oh, Mike has lost it. Could be out of the castle section then, for that matter.
Oh, and he's took his wing off. He's gone right into the wall. That is not what ESW wanted, as they are the division leaders. They need to get as many points as possible to extend their advantage at the top, and that is going to be a new wing change. Oh, Sector 2, that's somebody in the castle section. Safety car. We have a safety car, and I tell you what, this has absolutely saved ESW Ivor Bryn Mike's race. He can now pit under the safety car. We have a safety car on lap 11.
Well, even bigger than that, CPI Marcel was at the perfect time. And a drive-through penalty for Morgan for speeding under the safety car. That is going to be very, very tough for him. He's currently in 9th place, but this has helped out CPI Marcel to the nth degree. He has to put on hards, but everyone else pitting behind him, Sway, Felix, CR7, they're going to put on fresh mediums. Of course, they are allowed to do that, of course, since they started on sauce. Marcel had no choice but to put on a different set than the compound he started on. But that said, CPI Marcel has managed to emerge in P3 as on the back of that and in front of all these cars. So going long certainly helped CPI and Marcel, and that's going to be disappointing for Mr. Pop as well, as Sway looks like he's lost out to his teammate, or maybe given the position up. Not sure what happened there, but CR7 is ahead of Sway there.
Yeah, and I don't know if it is the same in the multiplayer cars as it is for the actual official F1, the double stack.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. I'd say that's exactly what's happened. Is Sway's. So I'm guessing then, since he's the only car in front of him, I'm guessing his pure bad luck was that Felix was the car that may have been his teammate. There is no other car. Possibly CPI Marcel was the only other person. It really could have been. Actually, no, it couldn't have been Felix, because Felix was behind, was he not? So it had to be Marcel.
Yeah. I just want to know who's caused the safety car.
Do you know what? Sorry, Conti has reminded me because I'm an idiot. It's his 5-second penalty that he served.
Okay.
So that's what it was. It could have easily been the other two, but it was indeed the 5-second penalty.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because Morgan can't serve that safety car until after the safety car, as Mr. Pop is now going to take the safety car lead. As I'm just trying to find out where the safety car is.
It's waiting for him heading down that straight. You'll catch it up right here.
And it is the nice red Mercedes. It's not a new Aston Martin one, which is the green Aston Martin, which in my opinion, it is the better safety car. Some may differ, but I do prefer the green Aston Martin safety car. So yeah, under safety car conditions, so no overtaking from any of the drivers, and if they do make any contact, they will be punished with a 5-second penalty, or as we've already seen with Morgan, a drive-through penalty.
So it's interesting. A few things to keep note on then is Mr. Pop didn't pit under the safety car. Now he probably didn't have any need to, because his tyres were fresher than the rest in terms of the likes of Sway, Felix, etc. Saucy, interestingly, didn't pit under the safety car, so he was obviously in that scrap of Felix and Sway. He chose not to pit, so he's on 6-lap-old mediums and is going to either have to try and limp this out to the end of the race, or might have to stop again. But he's going to be under pressure now. He's saving grace as MCFC retires from the race. I can't see where exactly on track that is. It looks like he's actually been heading out of turn 7. It looks like, to be fair to him. Saucy's saving grace is that Marcel is on hard, and if Marcel can keep Felix, CR7 and Sway behind, then he might work up enough of a gap that maybe might be able to protect himself. I think that's going to be a tall order for Saucy. Everyone else, with the exception of Rag there in 16th, who of course is a ghost car, everyone else pitted under that safety car. Few people on hards like Maxi Simon and Noah, and obviously Marcel pitted for hards, but everyone else taking a chance to put on medium compound tyres that should at least go to the end of this race.
Yeah, and I think this may play into an advantage of CPI Marcel, because if there is another safety car, at this point he doesn't need to pit again, because he's on the hards, unless it's like in the next 3 laps. Obviously, the safety car will potentially come in the next lap, I believe. So the only other option would be the softs, but everybody in the top 10 has already used their soft compound tyre. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities, but I think Marcel might just be in the prime position for either a podium or even the race win.
The key to Marcel's race is not getting swamped at the start here between Felix, CR7 and Sway. If he can stay ahead for the time being, I think he will have better tyres quite soon in comparison to Saucy, who is on 7-lap-old mediums. I think once those hards get up to temperature, he should be in a good spot. What will help him is the characteristics of this track, because it's not so much coming out of a corner. It's obviously you're just heading down a straight. Now, tyre temperature will be difficult to keep, but especially on those hards. But it's not like a situation. It's not like, say, Belgium, where you're coming out of a traction zone directly onto that straight. You're coming from a straight. So the only thing he has to worry about is making sure that Felix and CR7 aren't in his immediate slipstream. But if he can pick up one from Saucy in front, and get by that way, it will help. Because of course, once he gets down to turn 1 and turn 2 and turn 3, that's where his hards will be, I guess, less effective than those on mediums.
Yeah, and it's this safety car restart is very important for quite a few drivers, because if you don't get that safety car, well, your own safety car restart to perfection for like Marcel, he is literally just going to get swamped by everybody behind him, because they are going to be on the faster tyre.
Absolutely, and the person arguably who's also got to play this very, very carefully is the leader, Mr. Pop, because the safety car's in this lap, because he's the first one punching that hole going down this straight. So you don't want to go too early, because if he does, then he's just punching a hole for everyone else to follow, and if Saucy is awake behind, he's going to have a great chance to get a slipstream into turn 1. But let's see how late Mr. Pop goes. We are getting ready to go underway once again. I expect this to be chaos, but we shall see. Big loser at the stage car, I have to say, Mr. Pop, straight off the bat. Big loser. He was very comfortably in the heading for the net lead of this race. So, but let's see how he gets. Let's see what his mettle is made of as he gets us underway once again. And he's gone. He is gone, and he's got a good restart compared to Saucy, who's under pressure from Marcel. Going to go around the outside into turn 1. He's made that move. Marcel, that's a great move, but he's not done yet. Saucy side by side, and CR7 side by side with Felix as well, heading into turn 2. And Noah J is out of the race, but we're going to stay with the action here as Saucy dips into the slipstream of Marcel. Marcel hasn't gone for the defensive line. Saucy going to have to go for a bit of a lunge. He wants to keep this position. He hasn't, and CR7 almost goes into the back of him. So positions gained there for Marcel and CR7.
Yeah, 1 yellow flag is obviously for Noah J's unfortunate DF, but we've got battle here. Looks to be right behind Sway, which is Maverick and one of the NSR drivers. Yeah, so no DRS for the first 2 laps after the safety car, so this may help Marcel just gain that little bit of an advantage, who is up now into P2 after he overtook Sozzy.
That has worked out an absolute dream for Mr. Pop. The hard compound tyre behind him through the slow sections of the track. He's now 2 seconds clear already of Marcel. That has worked out an absolute treat. And Saucy then old tyres as well. That is an absolute dream restart from Mr. Pop, who absolutely nailed that. And now see how everyone else follows through. Saucy then under big pressure. CR7 has to get this move done. And soon, it was a lot of lag in front. That you can see how much that threw off CR7. Saucy looked like he crashed and disconnected all in one, as Maverick looked like he's going to try and size up Sway. He's got a little bit more ERS to boot as well. No one's really using... See, no one's quick to use their ERS straight away. They know they need to save it, as Morgan's into the pits once again. So a couple of drivers just standing by, waiting for that DRS.
Yeah, and I think they're just going to hold off a little bit. But look at the gap that Mr. Pop has, 1.9 to nearly 2 seconds in front of Marcel. That is, I believe, the difference between the mediums and the hards. And look at everybody behind Marcel. It's literally like follow the leader.
Absolutely, that could not have gone any better for Mr. Pop. That restart, and especially through the slow section of the track, you're going to feel it. Now those hards will come to Marcel, but it's going to be painful for the time being. But that is working an absolute treat, and for everyone behind, you just have to try and save some ERS, and that's exactly what they're doing. 76% plus for Saucy, 90% plus for CR7, and then there's another car in the turn 8 bar. I think that is Atlas, might be Atlas Scopo. Not 100% sure.
I will just double check for you on that. It looks to be, yeah, he has got no wing, so it's a no wing. I can't get the words out now. It's a no wing for the OWR driver, so he's going to be making a pit stop. He is on the medium, so he may go for a set of mediums. We could go for a set of hards, as Morgan has saved his super and is now down into P15. DRS has been enabled, so this is now going to get spicy.
Bear Remy making a move on Maxi Syme, heading into turn 1. Of course, medium compound tyres. DRS will be enabled. Oh, Colin almost running into the back of them. And now with DRS enabled, Saucy, well, he's not really putting the pressure on Marcel. He's nearly 8 tenths back. Oh, a bit of a dive from Colin there into turn 1. Maxi Syme getting eaten up here on these hard compound tyres. So he won't be too pleased. And Bolly on an absolute mad one. He's going to go around the outside. Oh, he's got very... Oh, actually, in retrospect... Oh, there's contact between the two. Maxi Syme seems to go from way far back. Colin Mason looked, he got on the brakes like 50 metres too early. I'm not sure whether it's damage. I've been Mike side by side as well, so it's all kicking off further down the field.
Yeah, it's definitely kicking off Azerbaijan, and it's not the party type either. It's definitely a battle for. It looks to be it's not going to be the final points position, because I believe every position gets a point in EML. So they're definitely fighting it out hard in Baku this evening, as the NSR driver is... No, he's not attacking, he's defending from Reggie, who is in TRT Academy, and this is going to be a recovery.
There you're lagging a little bit there, Storm. But meanwhile, Saucy on the back of Marcel. DRS finally enabled. Goes through one, and CR7 look like he's trying to make the move on both. Can he hang around the outside? Terrible camera angle. Left to rear contact, and that's going to allow Marcel. Is he going to sneak back through? Thinks about it. He's got Phoenix on his outside. This is getting particularly punchy. Saucy looks like he may have done enough once again, and that's a volley then into the barrier. So maybe more contact with maybe with Maxi Syme. Oh, Phoenix is going to go for the inside into turn 3. This is going to be deep stuff. It's clean, at least for the time being. Sway on the inside has to back out, but Phoenix may have moved across slightly there. It goes deep, and Sway just can't quite get through. Another yellow flag. I think that's actually might be Maxi Syme this time as well. But top positions changing a bit. That is Saucy, CR7 up a place, and Marcel down into P4 on those hards.
Yeah, is it fixed now?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, alright, that's good then. I do apologise for the lag a little bit there. Yeah, so it seems to be that the TRT driver of Reggie and the NSR driver, who has no wing, so yeah, he's going to be in for a pit, and he's just holding up Morgan as they... that is unfortunate, as that's now the second NSR driver, and we have a safety car.
Another safety car. Let's see what Mr. Pop and company do. Saucy maybe might be... I wonder if he'll bail. I gotta say, that's really rough for Mr. Pop. He has done... I think he's done everything right so far in this race, and his reward for it each time has been slashed. The first safety car, his advantage was ruined. He pulls out 3 seconds on this one as well, and it's also just squandered away. So unfortunate, but that's how racing goes sometimes. Saucy looked like he was going to go for the pits, then ducked out of it, but so I thought top 2 maybe Saucy might pit, but no, they're going to stay push. And I tell you what, if I was Bolly or Morgan, maybe Mike is going to do the same thing here, I would think about boxing for softs potentially here to go to the end of this race. By the time you get racing once again, it'll be lap 21, 22, and let's see if the soft compound tires. Yeah, soft goes in the car. I imagine Bolly will do the same. Everyone from basically Mike backwards should box, put on softs, and see, and just roll that dice.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a roll the dice situation. I just wonder if the top 2, I know they've gone for track position, but everyone behind them is at least 6 lap fresher on their tyres. I just wonder if it's kind of going back to the Russia Lando Norris situation. Have they kind of gone for more track position instead of going for a pit stop that could benefit them with the last 6 races? Because it is going to be a sprint race now, with the final potential 7 laps that do remain in this race. Quite
possibly. The thing to keep in mind with this one is, I think Mr. Pop. I think first of all, Mr. Pop does have the pace. We've seen that as it has. His tyres aren't too much older than those guys behind him, so I think he's in a decent position still, because again he can control the pace here at the front again. he has got Saucy, just like he had last time. He is Saucy behind on 12-lap-old mediums, and that will be something he could take advantage of. I know he's only 2-lap fresher, but he can take advantage of that. And the difference this time is that CR7 is the car behind Saucy, not Marcel. So that could be, if CR7 gets through quickly on Saucy, then Mr. Pop could be in trouble. But in terms of Saucy, his colours have kind of been nailed to the mast already, because he decided at the first safety car not to pit, and if he didn't pit for the first safety car, he'd lose far too much now in pitting for the second one. He'd lose all his track position. He might still lose track position regardless, but he loses the possibility he loses much less or much fewer positions now staying out, unless he gets in an accident, than he would have if he had pitted now under this safety car. So unfortunately his actions for the first safety car have basically forced his hand the rest of the way to basically try and limp it out.
Yeah, and it's still in the balance for who is going to finish on this podium, because at the moment it is CR7, but Marcel, his tyres will now come into that optimal prime range area, because they are going to be warmed up, they are going to be rubbered into the track, so it is going to be an interesting one. I think maybe CR7 is battling for that race win, as he is now going to be on fresher mediums, and Marcel is on fresher hards. And I tell you what, if Felix One can get himself up on the podium, it's going to be a massive result for NLR, being only having one driver here. Oh, there seems to be a bit of a change at the back under the safety car. That shouldn't be happening, as no driver should be overtaking, even if it is an AI car. Yeah, so it's going to be a very interesting 6-lap sprint race, as I believe the safety car will be in this lap, as we're just waiting for OWR Atlantis if I've said that right, just to rejoin onto the back of this grid for 6 laps remaining in Azerbaijan for EML League 2.
I don't blame Morgan here trying to get by the Ghost car here, because the Ghost cars on safety car race cars can ruin you, and I think he's managed to get away with it too now, to be fair. And I wouldn't hold anything against him in terms of that, because honestly it is an unfair thing to have to try and go through a Ghost car that, you know, obviously isn't actually someone. So he does get that place and didn't get a penalty for it, so I have no objections with that. He's up into P12 in the fight. Safety car is in this lap now. Critical, obviously, it's CR7 to watch for against Saucy, unless Mr. Pop can, if he's able to ace the restart again, then it all comes down to how quickly CR7 and of course Marcel and Felix and Sway can potentially clear Saucy, if there is this much of a difference in the tyres at this phase of the race, which you'd imagine there certainly would be now. Saucy's going to be feeling the effects here pretty soon.
Yeah, and I think the effects of their mediums will be coming into effect. Maybe not so much the hards, because they are a more durable tyre. We just wait for the safety car restart from Mr. Pop. Oh, there seems to be a little bit of a... as they are now going to go back under racing, and it looks like Felix One down the inside of CR7, and he gets the move up into P3. Fantastic start. CR7 gets a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Sector 1, yellow flags.
Yeah, so that Saucy went by Mr. Pop, and now you've had to get on the brakes, because of course you can't overtake before the line. So I'm guessing same thing possibly for CR7, and overtake that he could not place he could not give back. So I imagine you will see that one in the stewards. But Mr. Pop then still holding on. I have to look back now at that restart to see if there is anything of suspect, but at the moment he has a hold of 1.3 second lead, and this has worked out beautifully for Felix, who is now in the box seat for a podium if he can hold on, and he's got to try and negotiate that E-Cost car of Saucy as quickly as possible if he wants to try and chase after the win here today.
Yeah, it's now game on for the drivers, as they are... Oh no! As Mike has had a nightmare with the castle section, and he has no wing, so it's definitely not going to be ESW at the top of the division for the leaders. I believe we may see a few changes in the standings come to the next race, which will be on the 24th of November when we head to Paul Ricard for the French Grand Prix. But we still have 5 laps here in Azerbaijan, and it's going to come down, I think, to the final laps. Quite interesting one to mention tonight, Graham. Not a lot of penalties have been given out.
No, Baku, one of the few that I'd say track limits aren't too big an issue, but we've had Felix and Saucy going side by side here. Felix is eventually one out, and CR7 trying to get back through. He's pent in, he's boxed in, he can't dip to the left hand side from the slipstream. He's going to have to back out of it. Excuse me, Sway got by Marcel there heading down the straight in the midst of all this. And Felix is through to P2. Saucy trying to hold on. Oh, Kevin, CR7's in pent there once before, and it's happened again. He's into the barrier. I'm not sure if there's damage, but Sway again is the one. Oh, and Saucy's hit the back of CR7. I'm not sure if Sway's got damage from that, but this is allowing Felix and Mr. Pop to absolutely gazump away as Rage Bolly on his soft compounds. Look at them go. Soft compound tires around the outside. He's got through Marcel, and now he's through on Sway as well.
Yeah, Marcel, his safety car restart has not gone to plan, as he is now down to P7. But this battle for that final podium place, it's really hotting up in Baku at the moment, and CR7 is really having to defend for his absolute life to keep P3. He has got a 5-second penalty, so he will drop, but he is on fresher mediums, and Sozzy is, I think, just going to play this one, as Reggie Bolly is right on the back of Sozzy as well. No DRS at the moment, I believe. We will just check that, as they are now going to come through into what would be a DRS. Oh no, DRS has now been enabled this lap, so they're going to have 3 laps of DRS, as it looks like Sozzy had a look at CR7 but didn't get the move done, as he will now go through turn 1 into turn 2 and turn 3, and this is where now the DRS will play a factor, as Reggie Bolly should I say, is on DRS. He has the soft compound tyre. He's having a look at Sozzy, but Sozzy is using his ERS.
I'm not sure. I'd be amazed if everyone emerged from that squabble last lap without damage. I've no idea who has or hasn't got damage. It seems relatively okay. No one's really dropping pace, so I am absolutely astounded that no one's wing has come flying off in those skirmishes. So the gap from Felix to CR7 is relatively the same as it was after all that happened. Looks like Felix is beginning to catch Mr. Pop a little bit here. These gaps under 2 seconds from now at least, so we'll see if there's a tyre advantage to be had. We're going to see it play out in these next few laps, but for now I have to say Rage Bolly on those sauce. One to watch. Saucy out of DRS of CR7, who kind of looks like it's fine. He's actually closing to Felix there, so no damage somehow, at least for CR7. We'll see now. DRS going to be enabled for the this final stint, and you will see a lot of jostling for DRS these last few laps to be the one to position themselves to have DRS heading down that last crucial time, as Bolly's about to make a move here on Saucy, as Maverick is out of the race.
Yeah, safety car. We have a safety car, lap 23 of 24 now, I should say. So, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Atlascopo boxes, and I think this is going to be a fairly short safety car. These safety cars at the end of the race do be quite short. Bolly must be raging. He was going to be going through on Ecos on Saucy there. Felix will be, Mr. Pop will be raging too. Again, another situation. Now, I had a quick look back on the stream, because I was on board with Mr. Pop for the safety car restart. His pace was consistent, his throttle was consistent. It looked like Saucy just got too far ahead of himself and got in front before the line, before having to give it back. So it looked like, at least from that viewing, that Mr. Pop played that one. Nothing wrong with that. So he's done everything right here today, I have to say, Mr. Pop, and this is going to be a very hard fought result, whatever happens these last few laps, I have to say. So Rage Boy be one to watch on the restart on his soft compound tyres. They might begin to drop away from him slightly. Of course, they've yet to pick up. This is going to be a one-lap sprint to the end here, because they haven't even picked up the safety car yet. Of course, they're still under the delta. So they're going to go on to lap 25. Assuming, of course, I've never seen a league race end under a safety car, so I assume it's 1 lap behind it, and then a 1 lap sprint with no DRS. That is the critical thing. There is going to be no DRS heading down towards that start finish line. That could be big because everyone's going to be using the ERS on this last lap. It might actually be a case of who uses their allowance of ERS for 1 lap, because of course you are limited to the amount of ERS you use in 1 single lap. It might come to who has saved it at the right time, because if you run out of ERS heading down this straight here that Mr. Pop is going down, if you run out of ERS heading down that straight, then you are going to be very, very vulnerable for the 1 lap sprint we're going to have here to the line.
Yeah, and I tell you what, it does massively affect CR7. He is probably, having a rage right now because he has that 5-second penalty. Obviously, we don't know if the stewards will remove that. We will find that out at a later date. But he is literally going to drop right out of the podium positions and maybe down to at least a P7. And this could promote Sozzy up to P3. Now, Ecos are minus 20 points, so they aren't going to move off the bottom of the standings, but they will reduce that deficit quite nicely with potentially a P3. Felix 1, he could battle now for that race lead. It's brought him into the game, or to this race, should I say, for that race lead. So as you said, it is going to be a fantastic end to the race. It is going to be a 1-lap sprint for, well, anything really. It could be
grabs.
yeah, it's a I wouldn't say free for all because the drivers aren't doing destruction derby, but it is definitely gonna be all in kind of situation. No DRS. It is gonna be pure pace, and if it is on pure pace, then I think qualifying showed who had the real pace there, as Mr. Pop did set the pole time lap. So he's gonna have to get this right.
4 laps between his mediums and Felix's being the big variable here as they head towards the end of Sector 2, which should give us the message that the safety car is indeed in this lap, and indeed it is. So 1 racing lap we will get. We don't know what's going to happen with CR7's penalty and as such, but have to say, up for grabs, because all of a sudden with Bolly being back in 5th, the battle between TRT and TTG has ignited once again somehow after we didn't think that would be possible after lap 1.
Yeah, and it just brings everybody back into play, especially Ivor, Bryn and Mike for ESW. He was nearly 40 seconds behind before that safety car. He can now potentially battle on the last lap as the safety car is now into the pits, and we are going to go back under racing again as they all now will cross the line. It is going to be Mr. Pop versus Felix 1 as they come now down into turn 1. It's late on the brakes for all. No incident to report at the moment. There's some
Yeah, you're lagging, I'm afraid.
Oh, am I? Oh, I do apologise.
But he's held it. Mr. Pop, and look at that, Bolly and Saucy side by side heading towards turn 3. Saucy on the Bolly on the outside rather is going to be squeezed into the wall. He is a bit, and that's going to allow Marcel to come through. Marcel's going to go diving down the inside. Oh, Bolly's that's not going to work. 3 into 1 is not going to work. Oh, it's carnage. Morgan's going to absolutely jump the lot of them. Morgan, but he's got contact as well. Saucy. Oh, and Marcel. It's all sliding off. Morgan, I think he's just about to survive. It's absolute carnage on this last lap. No one wanted to yield there, and there's going to be a lot of words to be said afterwards. Saucy is on absolutely mad one, it looks like. Colin Mason all of a sudden up into 7th place. Morgan somehow jumping up to P4.
Yeah, and I tell you what, this is going to be a fantastic race finish for Morgan. He had a drive-through penalty early on in the race, and he is now going to get a podium. How more fitting can that be for an esports event? A drive-through and then you get a podium.
I'll tell you what, Felix has got a lot more of his allowance of his ERS heading down the straight than Mr. Pop does. He could end up getting him on the line. Is it going to be enough time? Because Mr. Pop's allowance is about to run out. Is it going to be enough? Felix opening deployment has been used for Mr. Pop. Felix is going to come through at the last second. Can he get through? His deployment has been used as well. CR7 is going to be in the mix as well. Felix, Mr. Pop. If just about Mr. Pop won the race. I don't know how that. It looked like Felix was ahead, I'm going to be honest. But Mr. Pop on the timing screens there has won ahead of Felix. Then Morgan then rounds out the podium. Marcel then comes back to finish in 4th place. CR7 drops down to 5th after all that carnage. Sway then 6th. Colin Mason 7th. Ivory Mike in 8th. I have to be honest. It looked like Felix finished. I think that's a mistake, because clearly on track, it looks like Felix was ahead of Mr. Pop there. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, that may have to go to stewards, but it was definitely a photo finish, as Mr. Pop does from P1 to P1. He does take pole position to a race win in EML League 2, with Felix 1 finishing in P2. Then Morgan will take the last of the podium places after serving a drive-through penalty earlier in the race.
Yeah, absolute carnage on the last lap there. I think that is Felix. I've no idea. It looks like I'm looking back here on. I was on board with CR7 as they crossed the line, and it looks like Felix is ahead of Mr. Pop. But it was, like you say, it'll be one for the stewards. But for the moment, at least, Mr. Pop, not lights the flag. Well, close enough. He was very, very excellent in this race. He provisionally takes, of course, these are all provisional results. He takes P1 ahead of Felix 1 in 2nd place. And then Morgan somehow coming up to finish 3rd on that last lap. Marcel then from 16th finishes 4th. CR7 5th. Sway 6th. Colin Mason 7th. Ivory Mike 8th. Atlascopo 9th. Beremy 10th. Ecos Frag in 11th. Rage Bolly then in 12th. Ecos Saucy then finishing in 13th. And I think actually DNF'd. Maverick then 14th. Maxi Sign 15th. These are all DNFs, of course. Noah J, DNF, MC, FC. DNF, I had to brush through that because I thought the timer was going to go on me, and it did not. So thank you for that. As always, Code Masters. Jeez, there he goes. What a race! What a crazy race.
Yeah, and just reading through the chat, Felix 1 does believe he was in front of Mr. Pop, so that will go to the stewards. But it's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure to share the comms box with Graham again for EML League 2. We will be back in a month's time, roughly, for round number 4. And we go from Azerbaijan to France for Paul Ricard, where we will be for the French Grand Prix. And if it's anything like the real life French Grand Prix, I think we're going to be in for an absolute another banger of a race in EML League 2. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. If you did like the stream and you do like any of the races that EML does provide, also TTML is on League Racing TV as well. And there is BNL as well. They stream on League Racing TV, so you're never short of any racing action in League Racing. But TTML will be back tomorrow at 8 PM BST for the season finale of Season 5 for Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which myself and Ivor Bridmite will be taking you through the action for F3, and then I believe you have Luke for F2, and you have James, or TTT James, for Formula 1. And then on Friday, we have Formula 4 and Formula 5 for the season finales in TTML. But until next time when we go racing in EML League 2, I have been Storm Kings, and that has been Graham, who has been my fantastic commentator for this evening, and we'll be back in a month's time.